Welcome to the Kortex Media Podcast, Marketing Accelerator, your compass for navigating the dynamic world of marketing and business growth. I'm Korson Schmidt, founder of Kortex Media. Our mission is to equip marketing agencies with the custom growth solutions they need to unlock massive revenue increases and scale their business. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today, we're joined by Jonina and Bradley Skaggs, a truly creative duo. The founders at Skaggs Creative, an agency that has been pushing boundaries since 1999. What's fascinating about Skaggs Creative is its foundation. Both founders are trained architects with holding a degree in graphic design. This blend of architectural precision and artistic flair has led to over 50 awards and even an Oscar nomination for their documentary film. They've worked with clients ranging from startups to major brands, and they even have a wild story about NASA being one of their first clients. Jonina, Bradley, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries. Thanks for taking the time today. I'm excited to get into this one, hear a little bit more about the NASA story, which we'll get into a little bit later. But to kick things off, what was that big inspiration to found Skaggs, and how did it come about? How did the idea come about, and how did you guys get started with Skaggs?
It kind of parlays into the NASA question. Jonina was doing her master's degree and doing freelance work on the side. And I was still working as an architect, but the two people we ended up doing that project with, that idea came about. I was doing a lot of work then with the early days of 3D CAD sort of work. And
Okay.
they were writing a grant to do this NASA project, and they brought us on to help them with the modeling part, and actually more specifically taking the idea to the web. It was the early days of QuickTime and being able to do QuickTime embedded in a website. So we started that, and I ended up taking a sabbatical to work on this project, and she finished her master's and was super busy. And it wasn't like we just said we're going to start a business. It kind of just happened. It was one of those things where you look back and it was like, well, what else were you going to do? Like it was a natural progression, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
For sure.
That's how it started.
I love you guys kind of just like built Skaggs together, kind of just like formed because there was a demand for what you guys were doing and your expertise. So I love that behind it. And I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs kind of talk about that as well, of being like, don't start a business until there's demand for what you're doing and people want what your expertise and your work, because it's going to create more of demand, more people to work with you, and your people know you for that reason. So I love the way Skaggs has built into who it is now. And then speaking of now, what are your core services today? What do you guys do? What do you guys offer, just for audience members who maybe aren't familiar with you guys or want to get to know you a little bit more?
It's pretty much full agency services now. So it ranges from brand positioning and strategy through the web. And that includes packaging and identity and brand systems and messaging, and, kind of on the spectrum of starting with what it looks like to all the different pieces that you would have in the market. We jump in all over them.
Yeah, but also with our background as architects, we tend to do a lot of three-dimensional stuff, like for retail, or for that matter, wrapping a whole car with graphics. Life-size product development. We're working on like a super huge, large lip gloss packaging.
That's cool.
So I feel like a lot of agencies, they really don't offer that three-dimensional knowledge that we have because we were trained that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just flat art or, strategies that we do, or websites. We do everything.
Okay, amazing. And you guys have kind of like built your knowledge from the ground up from being architects, right? So you guys have and you've been around the industry for such a long time. You guys have built that knowledge and transition with the technology day and age into what we have now, which is a lot of web-based platform, a lot of social media, a lot of content creation, that side of that generation of things.
Yeah.
So when we started, like, going back to your point before, it's very difficult to start if you don't have any work to show people, right? To convince them. So you need the demand, first of all. and you got to build the book of work. And in our case, she was freelancing, but also working for a small design firm. And we were doing this other work on the side. And then it was very easy for us to talk to other architects and engineers and help them with their marketing and their design work. Contract furniture manufacturers, anything in the industry that was used. And then, of course, we were in San Francisco, so there was plenty of tech work. It was the beginning of the .com days. So down in the valley, there was plenty of work. But it's when we moved to New York that we stepped more into beauty, which is what we've focused on for the last 15 or so years.
Yeah, beauty and hospitality.
Yeah.
Before COVID, we did quite a bit of hospitality work, but
Mostly restaurants.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. And in that process, you learn things and you find your expertise. Beauty's always been kind of our sweet spot because it's a very big industry and there's a lot of different things you can do in it. And scientifically, skincare can get very scientific, which is the fun, geeky part of it. And, but there's still a very aesthetic side to it too, which I think is what we both love because it's like architecture, right? There is that very engineered part of it, but then there's a very aesthetic part of it. So that's what I think I enjoy.
I feel like the beauty industry in general is something that you need a very unique brand to stand out. Like you have such big influence from these influencers and these celebrities that if you're a brand that maybe can't afford that, you really need to push brand and differentiate yourself from these other brands because they can leverage celebrities and influencers so well. And we're seeing that more and more now as well with AI and having, like, for marketing agencies, for example, pop-up agencies where people can run a business. One person can run a whole business and a whole team using these AI agents. And the boutique agencies that have a solid brand, they have an amazing story, they have everything built internally and a great reputation, a great brand behind them. They're going to be the ones to excel over these pop-up agencies and really continue taking the market share. So actually, I want to go into the story, unless you have anything to add on that.
No,
I think the story.
The AI thing is probably a whole nother podcast, but
yeah.
We do feel it, but we don't look at it as maybe we should look at it as more of a threat perhaps, but it's not, right? For us, it's just a tool, just like Photoshop was a tool.
Yep.
Just like the web was a tool in a way and a medium, it didn't kill print. If anything, it made print better. So I think there's all these ways to look at it. And we as an agency we do use it to certain degrees for different things what we do not use it for is creative. We use it for the other stuff around, because if we can save 20 hours of market research by having ChatGPT give us a landscape and then go in and spend the time verifying that and understanding what it means, that's just efficiency, right? So I don't look at it as cheating. It's just a better way to understand what's happening faster, but you still have to put the effort in to go through and validate and understand what it's saying. And then, of course, come up with the solutions to it. You would not believe how many people walk in here. Yeah, I've got this go-to-market plan, and they show it to you, and it's clearly ChatGPT. And the next person comes in, theirs is exactly the same almost, just, things are changed. So it needs a lot of work still. But look, for a lot of small brands that don't have big budgets, I can't see how it could hurt them. But I think you still need the expertise of like what's really happening in the industry and what's happened before. There are so many brands out there now who just honestly lean all into the influencer, which is okay, but they forget about like having a great product or having something unique or different that makes them stand out. Why do you want to be like everybody else? That's not the point,
But that's the problem these days. They see somebody who was really successful and they want to become exactly like them. It will wipe them out. And they don't realize that. And there have been twice we walked away from a project because we were like, no, we don't. I don't think this will work. And it didn't work, by the way. And, then they stand there like, oops, I didn't realize it. Well, we tried to tell you, but you didn't listen.
Well, and it costs money too. So then you're stuck with a brand that didn't go anywhere, spending a lot of money, and you've got to basically start over, and it always surprises me. Like, and I get it. It's a big risk and it's a big step, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Definitely.
But I think the brands that you and I and everybody recognize and love are the ones who had the guts to go out and try something different. And they fought the fight and they won. Okay, you still need the influencers, because the hardest part with any startup brand is awareness, right? Getting eyeballs on it and having people understand what makes it different and unique, and why should I take what I'm currently using and divorce it to start to use this, right? There's always that choice. You've got to, people aren't going to just decide they're going to wash their face 3 times. They're going to have 3 different cleansers, right? They're still going to wash it once, but you're asking them to change their cleanser, for example.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, and
see where that goes?
Yeah, you made a great point, and it's all like you can use influencers to get some traction to your company, but it's all that story. It's the story behind it that influencer is showing, right?
Mhm.
Is portraying it in these ads or in the content. It's all about the story behind it and the story you're leveraging as the brand. And I want to go back, Jonina, because you made a great point when you said that you've worked with some companies that have all wanted to push towards influence and not actually create the story behind the brand. And you guys have stepped away. That is one of the biggest things that is huge for companies, and as being your own company, because a lot of these marketing agencies just want the paycheck. Where you guys actually looked at that company you were working with and be like, you're not going to get the results that you want working with us and trying to do this. We don't want you having that extra expense. We're going to step away so you guys can do what you want to do instead of having our decision on it. And that's a big decision, being a company and a CEO, because yes, you love that paycheck, but you want everything best for your client. And that's why you guys decided to step away. A lot of people, I just wanted to clear that, because a lot of people might take that and be like, they thought they were going to do better, let's step away. But no, it's just making sure that your values are for the client and pushing them the right direction. If they don't want to, then stepping away, saving them some money and letting them go in the direction they want to. So I just wanted to clear that up. And I love what you guys are doing with that as well, because not every project is going to work. It's marketing at the end of the day. There's so many variables that can cause something to work great and something not to work great. And I'll let you jump in now here, Bradley.
I would just add to that even if that happens, the door's always open. It's not like we leave on bad terms. It's like, you guys go do this, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, we're here. You can come back. And sometimes I think young brands, they need that. Like, there's a lot of, especially young brands, they're getting a lot of input from their friends and families. And typically those people are telling what they want to hear. And they're getting bombarded right and left. And it's really hard to sort of see the path in the woods sometimes. And so sometimes you just got to let them, fall on their own sword a little bit, and then skin their knees and get back up and dust off and take it again. Like it's like anything. It's got to grow, and you've got to have your failures, understand your successes. And, you don't want to obviously let them, like a little kid, you don't want them to hurt themselves very badly, but teaching a little lesson here and there is not a bad thing. Right. So
no, especially with a business, if you take a little step back, every failure leads to a win at the end of the day. Like if you have these companies that maybe they have so much in mind and where they want to go and what they want to do, that they want to do their own thing and go their own direction with it, totally fine. And they take, like you said, they scrape their knee, but they come back stronger because they know what didn't work and they know they're not going to do that again.
Yeah.
So that's a great point. I just want to go into the story on how you guys worked with NASA and how you guys helped NASA, or even we can talk about someone else as well. NASA's just a massive company. Obviously that was an amazing project that you guys would have done. So can we dive into that? And what specifically did you guys help with? What did you guys do for NASA? And how the hell did you get speaking with NASA on a project? Because that is pretty insane.
It's an odd project. Let's say that up front. But essentially, we had a friend who had 2 friends who were biologists, scientists. They were the ones who were really behind it. And there was a grant, and we wrote a grant with them. It was $250,000 or something, and they won the grant. And the project was to do a virtual tour of all 10 NASA facilities. They spent a summer going everywhere, so when we were out in California and at JPL, like it was, the Mars rovers and how the balloon worked that was bouncing it onto the surface. And, so we were just basically shooting all this stuff and then building it into QuickTime VR nodes that you could then click through and kind of take a virtual tour of these different places.
That's pretty cool.
And then it was organized, like I said, by different topics. So life science, aeronautics, whatever. You could do it sequentially. And then you could do it just by facility. And then what they were doing is they were building a curriculum on top of it to use it as a tool in schools. So, because some of it was like crazy stuff, like you're in these labs where there's all this crazy equipment you've never seen, or you're sitting in, the cockpit of the space shuttle and looking around, or, you're
That's
watching
really cool.
The little Mars rover one was funny because in JPL, they had this back lot that was all red sand with red rocks, but then there was palm trees sticking up, at the end of the lot. It was just so bizarre, kind of like it all looked like Mars except that. But that's what the project was. And then it got all finished. We delivered the DVD to Eames in California. And then a couple of weeks later, 9/11 happened. And it never saw the light of day.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
because they were really freaked out about the security. But the security part of it was something we spent the most time on. No map you look at is ever going to show how a military facility or government facility really is. They're fake on purpose, obviously. So it was all this work that went into that. So it was really kind of a bummer. And then when Columbia disaster happened, it was like, well, maybe it'll come back to life as a sort of a PR boost for NASA. And no, that didn't happen either. But it never saw the light of day. But we always joke, like, if we had the time and money and effort, the time really to do it, to use today's technology to do it again, it would be just so freaking cool. Because you can make it fully immersive now,
That's an amazing project. And that it didn't get released as well. That is like a crazy story. So when you guys said it was quite the story, it's definitely quite the story. Now, that was 20 years ago, or I guess 25 years ago. Can we get a story on how you've helped a specific client today so people can understand your services, your process, and how you guys do things today?
So you can go deep in this, but like, if you look at this on our spectrum, you have the startups at one end and you have like legacy brands at the other end. We work with both.
Mm-hmm. Or in between.
Yeah. Obviously, we talked about the startups and all that stuff that has to happen. But the other side of it is like the legacy brand that's been around for 50 years or whatever and just needs a revitalization, a little boost to bring it relevant again. Diptyque was a great example of that. The French candle fragrance brand. And we did their global digital for 8 years. We did their first and second e-com sites and basically did all their marketing for the US, UK, France, and Europe. We had our own fragrance company for a while, which was just something we loved it. And fragrance has always been a little niche we've been pretty deep into, but Diptyque was a great one. Mm-hmm. But it was like about, fragrance is a very difficult thing to sell online, obviously, because you can't smell it, right? So it's real storytelling. Like, how are these ingredients? What are they? How do you set the scent in somebody's nose or their brain? Like, what it's going to be like? How do you transport them to what this fragrance creation's about, right? And,
but also selling samples, like minis.
Samples is the way you have to do it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what Diptyque was really against it in the beginning, but we told them you probably should offer samples. If you buy, let's say, over $200 and you get a free sample, or I think 3.
Anything, if you bought a full size, you could pick a sample.
And that led to that their sales were really going
It really
up.
changed things.
Yeah, it changed the landscape completely.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the names you don't understand, first of all, because a lot of them are French, and even if you read about it, some people don't understand, like, what exactly does vetiver smell like? And how does that what's that with the bigger story? And because all of the fragrances, if you look at the back of the label, there's a little drawing, which is like the story of the fragrance. And it was like maybe where one of the 3 founders went, in 1968 to wherever they were traveling to, or Japan or whatever. And this is the fragrance they created about that trip. So, it's just fun, fragrance, honestly.
Yeah. And you guys had a great offer, which is that buy one, basically get one free, get one sample free, test this other sample out, and they'll probably end up coming back and buying that sample, buying the actual full size if they like that sample, right? Because people are, if they smell something, if they get their nose on something and they really like it, they're going to end up buying, especially something like a candle, because a lot of people love candles and a lot of scents are so much different, like you guys said. That's a great point. And so I want to get more into marketing in general right now. What are some of the big trends? Like, I know we touched on AI a little bit. What are some of the biggest trends or most significant trends that you're seeing within the marketing agency world and broader marketing world in general?
Honestly, I feel like things are kind of chaotic right now. I wouldn't say there's any like real definitive trend other than AI and, the whole sort of ethical question about, right now in UGC, right, there's platforms out there where you can basically do AI UGC creators. And, is that authentic? Is that lying? What is that exactly? Because it's not, you're writing a script and putting words in some fake person's mouth to make them look real and sell something to something. So I think we struggle with that a little bit. Actually, I struggle with it a lot because I feel like it is kind of false advertising.
Yeah.
But then again, I used to buy cereal based on a cartoon character on the front of the box, right? So maybe it's just a natural progression of where it goes, right? But
yeah, so people, them saying don't judge the book by the cover, but people actually tend to shop that way a lot. I mean, I've made the mistake to buy a bottle of wine because I loved the label, and then the wine was not so great.
Yep.
But truly on design, but the problem now these days is that, like we were talking about, everybody's copying each other. Like there's a trend with color. There is this pale pink that we call glossier pink.
Okay.
Everybody wants to use that pink, whether it's like hair care, skin care, color cosmetics. It's insane a little bit, but and we try to steer people away from doing exactly what other brands are doing, like I spoke about earlier. But sometimes it can be a bit tough. I mean, the client has to be happy. It's their brand, but we can try to educate them and sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. And it's a little frustrating when they don't. But,
we always push people like the design has to come out of the essence of what the brand is.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Otherwise, it's like, I just find it crazy too, like how you see it. Like we've always had it, right? Trends of what celebrities wear. Everybody wants to wear the same thing, right? It's not going to make you that person.
No.
Right. You're still your own unique person. And I feel like kind of where society has gone with social media, especially, is it's very homogenous. Everybody wants to be the same. Yeah. And now you have really on the fringe those people who are the outliers who are maybe doing most everything, but everybody wants to be that and not look at, especially as a brand, looking at why you did this in the first place and what you're trying to achieve and how you're going to position yourself in a way that makes you different and stand out instead of blend in. I think part of this problem also comes from the fact that, and I'm not against this, I'm not against Canva and things like this, but people who don't have a design background, it's natural. It was first with PowerPoint. They just used it because it was a quick tool to do it. Canva's far better than PowerPoint, but it's still giving you a lot of templates, and people who don't understand typography or color theory or things like this, they just start putting stuff in thinking this is great. And it suffers with readability and often suffers with clarity. Because there still needs to be that thinking about, like, you're bombarded with thousands of messages every second. Like you can't just think the same template everybody else is working just because you change it from blue to green is going to make a difference, right? It's probably not your brand in the first place. And when you have, this presentation looks like this and a package that looks like that and an identity that looks like this, there's no cohesion there.
And then the voice.
And then the voice is probably somewhere else. And it's not to say that a brand can't have sort of a corporate voice and a social media voice. Yeah. Like that's okay, right? But they need to come from the same place. And they need to speak about the same truths of the brand and not just try to, again, like you were saying, be everything to everybody, because it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's super high level, and I love this conversation with color palettes. Like you said, I think I know exactly what color you were talking about of the pink, because I'm pretty sure I've seen it on every single skincare or makeup bottle out there.
Yeah.
But I want to get a little bit more into color palettes, because it is something that is really intriguing, because the research has been done that there is certain colors that attract certain people, attract certain emotion, etc. So if you guys are working with let's just stick with beauty, because we kind of been talking about this whole conversation. If you guys were working with a beauty company, maybe you're doing we'll do face wash again, because Brad, you brought that up a little earlier. If you're working with a face wash skincare company doing face wash, what emotion do you want attached to that face wash? Does that kind of articulate what colors you guys are going to be bringing into that brand packaging, if you guys were doing brand packaging, and how does that process work with you guys? Because like you said, someone can get on Canva, build a package that's super basic, super templatized, where you guys are architects, you guys have went through this process for 25 years. How does your process differentiate from that person that does just go on Canva and make a simple packaging?
Well, we start with the essence. We study first the brand and why they started, and we always look at the formulation as well. What is in it?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it different? We try to stay away from also companies that use dangerous materials. We really don't want to help market that, to be honest. But for example, there's one brand that we're sort of rebranding, and there is a wash involved, and it's actually for acne. The color that you want to stay completely away from acne products is red and oranges.
Okay.
Because, pimples get red, and yeah. So we ended up using sort of like a aqua color, because that's cleansing. It's
water.
It's water, and then just with a simple typography treatment, nothing that gets a little kooky and crazy. Because I've seen a lot of acne brands that want to be cute and fun. There is nothing fun about having acne.
Mm-hmm.
If your skin doesn't look good, you feel awful.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
not only women, men as well. You just want to cover your head up. And we've seen that a lot. I mean, we have worked with a lot of brands and done some research and done, before and afters. It's amazing how, there was this one woman, she told us that from her product, she's from Iceland, and we're trying to help her bring the product to the US. And there was one client, actually the mom and his son had a really bad acne situation, and he started to use her product. And after a month, his personality completely changed. He was no longer shy. He was going out. He was meeting friends. There's subtle things like that I think makes us really happy when we see this happening.
Yeah, for sure. And with you guys being
same with
in the
her.
marketing side as well, seeing that story and seeing that happen and bringing that into the brand, bringing that into the marketing strategy as well, is a huge impact to make it seem that much different, because you have a real world story, you have the real world emotion that you can put onto this, you can put into this packaging, into the branding, into the logo, into the story behind it, and you have true case study results of what it can do. So
yeah,
that's great. And I love that you guys don't work with brands that do include all these chemicals and these bad for yous in their products, because they're everywhere. There's so many brands, there's so many products out there that are not good for you, that a lot are getting pushed. So kudos to you guys working with these natural brands that are actually looking to benefit the individual themselves, because especially in the beauty, it's such a corrupt, and I hate to say it, but it is such a corrupt industry, and there is so many bad chemicals in a lot of these products that are making, for example, acne worse, from women putting foundation or whatever. I'm not big into makeup, but whatever they're putting on their face, it almost makes it worse. So it's I love that you guys are going the more natural way, looking for the beneficial of the consumer at the end of the day, even with the marketing aspect of it.
I was just going to say this brand she's talking about, because you asked the question, like, what colors work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cleanser, obviously, that's why a lot of skincare is white, because it's about this cleanliness.
Mm-hmm.
However, in her case, her bottles are black, but it,
Okay.
it references sort of the black lava you find all over Iceland. And the packages are this beautiful gradient green, which reflects the different mosses and lichens you find in Iceland. So she's going against the grain, but she's not just doing it to do it. She's doing it because this is the brand. It's an Icelandic skincare brand. And it's helping to differentiate her in a way that's unique and identifiable, which some people, and when you see it on the shelf, you definitely stop because it stands out. It's not like everybody else, but and that's not to say that you should just always go out and just do the opposite, but I think you have to rationalize it always, because it's part of the bigger storytelling we've been talking about.
Yeah. And then there's also a lot of brands out there that are all natural, but you have to be careful about that too. So we often seek out brands that have a science back behind what they're doing, but are not using some crazy chemicals to make, the product efficient.
For sure.
And,
well, and also just like the regulations, I can't remember the exact number, but the list of unallowable ingredients in Europe is much higher than it is in the US.
Oh, yes.
And then, you go to Asia and there's places where you have no idea what they're putting in this because there's no regulation around it at all.
Yeah.
But because it's, the trend and it's fashionable, then people start using it and they wonder why they get these crazy things happening on their skin. Like, you have to be careful with it,
Yeah, I could go so far into this conversation. I love talking about this. And the food industry is the exact same.
Same thing.
And it is really, this conversation has taken a big turn, but I love it because I'm so passionate about this topic.
Yeah.
And it's something that needs to be brought up to the world, and it's working. It's getting its work done in the United States. We're seeing more and more changing, but it is something that if you wouldn't, this is what I say, if you wouldn't eat it, why would you put it on your face? Like, I do a lot of skincare myself, and actually, anyone listening to this who's really into skincare, into beauty, use an app called Yuka. It'll tell you all the ingredients within the product itself, tell you what's bad, what's good. It'll tell you the risks of it. This is not a paid promotion. This is something I use because it benefits me.
Let's to try that out.
Yeah, give it a try. You just scan the barcode, comes up with the ingredients that are risk-free or have a slight risk, and it tells you what they do, even foods as well. But it is something that needs to be brought to people's attention, that there is a lot of corrupt in these industries, in the beauty, in the food, in all these industries, and just be careful on what you're putting in your body and on your face. Just take a look at the ingredients. I always hear this as well, that if you can't find them in the grocery store, don't put them on your body or in your face, because it was made in the lab at the end of the day.
Well, our joke is always, if your grandma wouldn't know what it is, then you probably shouldn't be using it, right?
Yeah. So,
but something else to think about is, an ingredient can come in all kinds of different qualities, right? So the arginine you're buying here may not be as good as the guy producing it over here, right? So even if the ingredient is good and acceptable, it still comes back to the quality of that ingredient you're sourcing, right? So a lot of, we find and it makes sense. Again, it's a small brand starting out. You buy, if you find a formulator's got a stock formula and you're going to tweak it a little bit. Mm-hmm. That's very different because you're taking whatever they've got in that base formula and you're living with that. And that's different than formulating from scratch where you're saying, look, I want to build a compound that does this, that, or the other. And working with a formulator who's a chemist who really understands all this, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
But again, it also comes back to where the business is and obviously the money and time and all that. But I do feel like sometimes that's one of those places where you get what you pay for, honestly.
Yeah.
Cheap skincare is going to give you cheap results. And it doesn't mean you have to be doing the $400 brand X stuff either. There's a sweet middle ground in there, but you got to just be the savvy consumer and you've got to do your research, like you're saying.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love where this conversation went. I love talking about this.
Well,
I'm really passionate about it, and it is something that needs to be brought to surface to a lot of people. So I love that we touched on it. I have one final question for you guys. Back to
sure.
entrepreneurship, to marketing, etc. I have two questions. Let's go with this. I have two questions. What does the future of Skaggs look like for you guys? Where do you want to take it? What is that big goal that you guys have at the end of the tunnel, and what you guys want to do and where you guys want to go?
That's a good question.
It's a question we ask ourselves all the time, honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't think we really have an answer
Mm-hmm.
per se, because I think what the way to answer that is, it's not so much where we want to go, it's who and what we do along the way.
Mm-hmm.
We want to work with brands that don't want to just be like everybody else. We want to work with brands that have an idea and want to try to change the world, in their capacity. We want to do things that have a positive impact on the user and the bigger society as a whole, right? Those are the things I think that interest us. I don't want to just do another lipstick. You've done one, you've done 1,000. But if you want to come out and say, like, this lipstick is going to do something because there's a payback component to it, or a social responsibility part to it, or something like that, that's going to change people's lives, then happily jump on that train and do it. And I think it's also just a little bit about just trying to share our knowledge.
Yeah.
Why we're talking to you, right? Because what good does it do in our heads,
Yeah, for sure.
whatever. I'd rather share it and have conversations around it and talk to people and, help them out if we can.
For sure.
So,
There's so much knowledge in this industry. Marketing is massive, right? Like, there's so much knowledge in it. There's so many people that have great knowledge. They just need to find a funnel to share it with. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to join me for that.
yeah.
I've actually another one to add on to it, and it's about client acquisition, lead generation, because I ask this question on every podcast, just because this is the question I like to ask on what's working now versus what's not. With your guys' efforts in lead generation and client acquisition, what seems to be that go-to channel? And maybe it's referrals. Like, maybe you guys just run a referral network business, and that's amazing as well. It's one of the best ones you can do. But what is that go-to that you guys use internally for Skaggs to grow and find the attractable clients that you guys want to work with? What seems to be the best?
Most of it has been referral.
Yeah.
Just because we've been doing it long enough, we know enough people.
Yeah.
But even referrals, the economy takes a dip. That's different, right? So we do a lot of work, reach out on LinkedIn, and Jonina's and Susan are very good about keeping up with what's being said in the trade magazines and understanding who's doing what, and seeing there's opportunity there, because sometimes it's not that we don't always have to make the whole cake. We're happy to work just on this one bit of it, and sometimes that's what a brand needs. They just need somebody to come in and help them with a package redesign, or maybe their digital's a little weak and they want help with that, or they feel like their messages are resonating and want to clean up the messaging. That's fine. We don't have to do it all. And it's actually, honestly, I think personally, more fun to do with other collaborators. Just again, it's an exponential result, because there's more input and you bring people with different expertise to the table, and then it starts conversations and interesting things can happen out of that. So I think that's.
Yeah, referral is, I'm not going to say it's not, because it is the best way to attract clients. Having good reputation within the company, and it'll always bring people back. It'll always spread good word and move things forward for a company. So one of the best marketing efforts out there. Obviously, you only have so big of a network, and you're always going to have to move forward with that. So I just want to move to my final question. That's for young marketers, entrepreneurs getting started within the marketing industry, or maybe someone just wants to learn a little bit more about marketing. What advice do you have for someone just getting started in the industry today?
I would say go to a lot of networking events to begin with, in whatever industry. Find groups that you think you can network within. That's kind of what we did in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And once you get your client or a client or multiple clients, make sure you treat them well. Never burn any bridges. Never say no. No is not a word that we use. We'll always say we'll try. And
sometimes it's business, but
Yeah,
sometimes it's business, but you never say no.
you never
Yeah.
say no.
Yeah, you can always find, especially with AI, you can always find you can do the research, you can find the knowledge to figure out how to execute. And it then creates you with a bigger experience, you with bigger knowledge to help maybe another company with that same issue. So I like that advice.
Yeah, and I think transparency is key too.
Yeah.
You know, nobody likes a surprise. So even if it's not the best news, just get it out there, because maybe it's not as big a problem as you're thinking it is, or they think it is, that there's actually a really interesting, simple solution to it. Maybe it's a chance to innovate something, you know, it just depends. But yeah, Jonina's right. You just, we never say no to a meeting or a call, because you just never know who that person is. And you never know, maybe something comes up. Like I always find it strange on a, okay, pitch me, tell me what you do. Like, I don't, why? I want to know what's your problem. Where's your pain? Like,
Yeah.
that's interesting. When you start getting somebody to tell you where they're struggling and what's happening, that's really, I think, that's how you get business. Because when you start to understand and have empathy about what they're facing and what they're trying to do, and you can find solutions to that, it's a no-brainer then. So.
Amazing. Well, Bradley, Jonina, thank you for joining me on the conversation. It's been great. We've kind of went
Thanks for having us.
A bunch of different conversations within this one, and it's different than I had in mind, but I love it. And it's great getting different thoughts, different opinions, different knowledge, different expertise on this podcast, and even diving in different topics, because a lot of people, maybe this will reach someone who doesn't know that there is skincare companies that don't care about what they put in their products. So this will find someone, and I really hope people find this intriguing and exciting and pick up some information that they didn't know originally. So thank you guys, very much appreciated.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for having us.
No worries.
All right.